Good morning, lovelies. I talk a lot about toxic masculinity and sexism and homophobia as it appears in science fiction and fantasy on this channel. So today I wanted to take a break from all of that and talk about 10 examples of healthy masculinity in science fiction and fantasy. Now I know I literally just said that we're going to take a break from it, but I do need to give a quick definition of toxic versus healthy masculinity here so that we all know what we're talking about. Toxic masculinity is a system that reinforces male superiority and often uses intimidation, violence, and abuse to maintain that sense of power. I feel like you need to make a disclaimer here because a lot of people misinterpret the phrase toxic masculinity as an attack on all of masculinity and everything remotely manly. It's not. It's an attack on those who use manliness and masculinity as an excuse or a reason as to why they are being an asshole. This goes hand in hand with sexism and homophobia, reinforcing the idea that men are stronger and better while women are weak and worthless. Being called a woman or girly or gay is the highest insult, even though you boys would be lucky to be half as queer and womanly as me. It also limits the amount of emotional awareness and depth that men are allowed to have. The whole boys don't cry bullshit. Which directly leads to the fact that men are 3.5 times more likely than women to commit suicide in the US and also commit 90% of our homicides. Healthy masculinity, meanwhile, is being confident in your own manliness, however that looks like to you on an individual level, without shaming or hurting others for their take on masculinity. It means acknowledging that you're a human being with human needs. Being stoic is considered masculine, keeping those emotions in check. But healthy masculinity gives internal and external permission to cry when you're sad, ask for a hug or support from your friends and family, and squealing in delight because that puppy is just so cute. It means not being sexist or homophobic, respecting your fellow human beings no matter their minority identity. It's kind of like sports. They're considered a masculine trait in our society. If you're a guy and you enjoy playing sports, play them. Learn to do the teamwork and the leadership thing and physical fitness and all that jazz. Host a neighborhood barbecue on Super Bowl Sunday to watch the game. That's great. It's healthy. Congratulations. You are traditionally masculine. But the minute you start ridiculing people, especially other men, who don't like sports, now you have officially crossed into toxic masculinity territory because you are belittling and shaming those who are not man enough. Honestly, we could do an entire video on just this, and I technically already did that, and there are plenty of other videos like it floating around on YouTube. I haven't even scratched the surface here. But at some point, I would like to switch over to the reason you clicked on this video, the science fiction and fantasy characters who, in my opinion, embody healthy masculinity, and that I would love to see more boys and men strive to be like. Before we get started, remember to subscribe to the channel for more videos on science fiction, fantasy, and horror through a feminist lens, and join the community on Patreon for bonus content. Link is in the description. At least 10 characters are in no particular order, but the first one is my favorite. Number 1, Aragorn, son of Arathorn. Most of the protagonists from Lord of the Rings are good examples of healthy masculinity, honestly. Credit where credit is due, Samwise Gamgee is also a spectacular example, especially as he embodies several non-masculine traits. But Aragorn is king and also my favorite character out of this franchise, so we're going to be talking about him. The dude is compassionate, tender, supportive, mixed with good leadership skills and badassery. He comforts Boromir as he's dying, he supports Éowyn in her dream of fighting, calling her a shield maiden. He is literally designed to be like the ideal in Tolkien's mind. Well, him and Sam. Number 2, Kristoff. He asks Anna for permission to kiss her before he does. When he catches up with her during the climax of Frozen 2 with zero idea of what's going on, he doesn't blatantly barge in and take over. He asks his girlfriend, who does know what's going on, what he can do to help. Frozen 2 is a pretty meh movie, but that moment was gold. Even his arguments with Anna are great. Number 3, all the guys in Avatar: The Last Airbender. Sokka and Zuko especially go explicitly from different types of toxic to healthy. Sokka has to overcome his internalized sexism and doesn't get Suki as a girlfriend until long after he's done that. And Zuko has to overcome racism, imperialism, and his own anger issues. In the episode of The Dragon Mask Masters, he explicitly talks about how firebenders are taught to pull from rage and hatred, pretty much the only emotions toxic masculinity approves of, and that he doesn't want to do that anymore, that he needs a new source of power. And I cannot think of a better example of a metaphor for a guy recognizing toxicity and toxic masculinity and struggling and choosing to turn away from that. And then of course there's Aang, Iroh, and Hakoda. Almost all of them cry on screen, often more than once. Normalize boys crying. Number 4, all the boys in the Heroes of Olympus and Magnus Chase trilogy. They all treat the girls as equals. They talk about their emotions, and when there are fights and high tempers, they apologize for them. Nico has a hell of a time accepting himself as gay and that he deserves love and friendship as much as everyone around him. The boys often say I love you to each other, especially in the Magnus Chase trilogy, platonically and sincerely. And Magnus Chase basically defeats the big bad guy in the end by saying, nah, you think you're great? No. Here's all the awesome stuff that my friends have done and why they're better than you, rather than just beating him up. Teamwork makes the dream work, and it's not possible with toxic masculinity. Number 5, Kaladin Stormblessed. If you haven't read the Stormlight archive by Brandon Sanderson, it's great. I am rereading books 1 through 3 so that I can refresh myself on everything that's happened, because each book is over 1,000 pages long, and get into book 4, which means I haven't read book 4 yet, so no spoilers. There are 3 major male characters that I want to highlight here: Dalinar, his son Adolin, and Kaladin. Of the 3, Kaladin is probably the best example of healthy masculinity. He's a lot like Aragorn, actually, except that he starts the story as a slave rather than rightful king. He deals with depression and oppression, has mental breakdowns because of his horrible situation, and needs to rely on others to get through them. Toxic masculinity also encourages workaholics, because if you're a man who isn't spending 15-hour days at work to dominate in his career, then what are you doing? Kaladin does toe that line. In his defense, he's got a lot of stuff going on, but he's got a great support group of friends, almost all of them guys, who are like, no, you don't get to go in your room and sulk or work yourself to death. You're going to the bar with us. You don't have to drink, but you gotta at least socialize. Get you some friends like that. Number 6, Newt Scamander. Never let anyone tell you to stop being weird. Also, he calls himself Mummy when talking to his animals, and it's adorable. Number 7, T'Challa. He surrounds himself with powerful women, and while he outranks them as king, he treats them as equals and never hesitates to ask for their help, especially his sister. Everyone knows that little siblings are secretly chaotic gods who must be appeased with praise and offerings of snacks. Concerning vibranium and taking Wakanda public, compare his take to Killmonger. You cannot get a better comparison of toxic versus healthy here. Killmonger sees vibranium and immediately wants to use it to conquer, dominate, and destroy. When T'Challa decides to go public, it's almost in a service role. Not subservient, but rather, here's this huge cultural and technological gap between us and the rest of you guys. We'll help you out until you're all caught up. Basically, while he has a huge advantage with his country, he doesn't use it to beat on other people or try to strong arm them or oppress them. He literally says, I am not king of the world, I am king of Wakanda. Number 8, Miles Morales. He immediately recognizes that he's in over his head and that he needs help, and he does not hesitate to reach out and ask for help. He's artistic, goofy, and clumsy, and all the other Spider people want him to be Spider-Man their way, and the movie hinges on Miles realizing that he gets to be Spider-Man his way. Number 9, Finn from Star Wars. Leave the best or worst movie debate at the door. We're not here for that. Besides, I already did it. He has an incredibly strong platonic relationship with a woman that endures throughout all 3 movies. Seriously, we need more male-female friendship representation in fiction. It's so important. He learns that saving what you love is leagues better than destroying what you hate, and he should have been in a romantic relationship with Poe. There, I'm sorry, I know I said we wouldn't go there, but it needs to be said. The Mandalorian's also a good example of healthy masculinity. And number 10, any Studio Ghibli hero ever. Studio Ghibli movies usually feature a woman as the main character and a supporting dude character who often plays a romantic role. So right off the bat, we've got a bunch of guys who are supporting and uplifting women. They tend to be kind and compassionate as well as brave and usually a little goofy. And bonus, all the movies are gorgeous and usually promote a message of peace community, friendship, and love, none of which can really exist in a toxic masculinity environment, and vice versa. Tell me your favorite examples of healthy masculinity in science fiction and fantasy in the comments below. Remember to subscribe to the channel for more videos like this one, and if you can, join the Patreon community for more goodies. Bye, lovelies!